Today, I'll show you how to easily make seamlessly tiling snake or dragon scales using GIMP, which is a free open source image editor. For the first technique, I'll open up the Symmetry Painting Dockable dialog under Windows and select the tiling mode. I'll set the X and Y interval to 20, but if you want a longer scale, you can set the Y interval to longer than the X. So by default, the tiles are stacked up on top of each other in vertical and horizontal rows. So you can set the shift on the x-axis to half of the x interval, and then from the starting point, draw down to meet the center and back up to make a scale pattern like that. And you can make the scales more curved or more angular depending on how you want it to look. So now I can use the paintbrush and smudge tool to fill in the scales. Most of the tools do not work with the symmetry painting, such as the fill bucket and the filters, so you do have to work within the limitations. But you can get a pretty good effect just using the paint and smudge. So you can blend those together. And get a pretty decent scale texture. And if you're better at drawing, I'm sure you can make a better effect. And to change the color of the scales, you can use the hue chroma and slide the hue, so you can have different variations of the same pattern. Now, if you look up dragon scales on Google Images, you can see that most of the patterns are staggered on the y-axis. So they're stacked in columns instead of rows, like this. So to achieve this, I'll make a new image and turn the x interval up to 26. So unlink the scale, and I'll turn the shift up to half the x interval. And now you can draw the scales going to the right. So you'll want to bring the point down to halfway between these two lines and then bring it back up to make the scales. And then you can just rotate the image upright when you're done coloring it in. In this example, I have the scales on a transparent layer, so I can change the background color. Then I'll paint with black and white to make the shadows and highlights on the scales. So you can add more details or colors if you want, of course, but you get the idea. Then I'll use the smudge tool to blend them together a little bit. Just to make it a bit smoother, and you can turn down the opacity as well. And if you want the rainbow scales like they have here, you can go to, with the background selected, render noise plasma, and you can select new seed to change it until you find one that you like. As you can see, there's quite a bit of variation, and you can use the map tile seamless to make the whole thing tileable as well. So that's all for this tutorial. Thank you for watching and have a great day.